The theater is dark. Absolute blackness envelops me, a void that feels both infinite and intimate. Then, faintly at first, the iconic Paramount Pictures mountain emerges from the darkness, its snowy peak illuminated by a halo of light. The stars arch gracefully overhead, twinkling in a silent, celestial dance. The orchestral score begins softly, swelling with a quiet grandeur that promises epic storytelling ahead. I feel a familiar flutter of anticipation, that electric buzz that only a big summer blockbuster can ignite. Next, the screen transitions seamlessly to the Skydance logo, its sharp edges cutting through the darkness with a metallic gleam. The music shifts, now a pulse, a heartbeat, quickening in tempo, as if preparing me for the adrenaline rush to come. The atmosphere in the theater is charged. The murmurs of the audience fade into silence, everyone collectively holding their breath. Suddenly, the screen flickers and the iconic Mission Impossible theme bursts forth. Tom Cruise's signature franchise anthem, instantly recognizable, but here, subtly reimagined with a modern, almost electronic edge. The rhythm is relentless, driving, a perfect soundtrack to the impossible feats about to unfold. The screen brightens to reveal a panoramic aerial shot of a sprawling metropolis at dawn. Skyscrapers glisten with the first rays of sunlight, glass facades reflecting a world waking up. The camera swoops down swiftly, weaving through traffic, past bustling streets, and into a sleek, high-tech facility perched on the edge of the city. I feel the pulse of the city, alive and vibrant, a perfect backdrop for espionage and danger. Inside the facility, the lighting is stark and clinical. White walls gleam under fluorescent lights. Men and women in sharp suits move with purpose, their faces a mix of determination and tension. The camera focuses on a digital display, a countdown clock ticking ominously. Something big is about to happen. The music dims, replaced by the subtle hum of computers and the clicking of keyboards. Then, a figure steps into view. Ethan Hunt. Tom Cruise is back, and the years have only sharpened his intensity. His eyes scan the room, calculating, alert. There's a weariness there too, a hint of the toll this life has taken. But beneath it all, the unyielding resolve of a man who will stop at nothing to complete his mission. The tension is palpable. As Ethan approaches a secure terminal, his fingers fly over the keyboard with practiced ease. Suddenly, alarms blare, a piercing siren that shatters the clinical calm. Red lights flash, the countdown accelerates. I'm on the edge of my seat, heart pounding in sync with the escalating tempo of the score. Without hesitation, Ethan bolts through a labyrinth of corridors, pursued by shadowy figures. The chase is relentless, the camera tight on his face capturing every bead of sweat, every flicker of determination. The sound design is immersive. Footsteps echo, doors slam, breaths ragged. I can almost feel the heat of the moment, the stakes impossibly high. Just when it seems Ethan might be cornered, he executes a breathtaking stunt, vaulting through a window, free-falling several stories before deploying a parachute with perfect timing. The sequence is a masterclass in tension and spectacle, blending practical effects with CGI so seamlessly that I'm convinced it's all real. The roar of the wind fills my ears, the rush of adrenaline surging through me as I watch him navigate. The perilous descent. As he lands, the scene cuts abruptly to black. Silence. The screen remains dark for a beat longer than expected, allowing the tension to linger before the title appears in bold, metallic letters. Mission Impossible. Final Reckoning. The font is sharp, almost aggressive, hinting at the film's darker, more intense tone. The music returns, a haunting variation on the classic theme, underscoring the gravity of what's to come. I lean forward, fully immersed now, senses heightened. This isn't just another action movie, it's a cinematic journey that promises to test the limits of courage, loyalty, and sacrifice. The next scene opens in a dimly lit safe house. Ethan meets with his team, each member a familiar face, yet carrying new scars and stories. The dialogue is terse, loaded with subtext. They discuss a new threat, a shadowy enemy with global reach and ruthless intent. The stakes are personal. This time, the mission more than just a job. It's a reckoning. The camera lingers on Ethan's face, capturing the flicker of doubt beneath his steely exterior. The screenplay is sharp, balancing exposition with emotional depth. He feel a connection to these characters, their struggles resonating beyond the spectacle. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a breathtaking location, a remote mountain range shrouded in mist. The cinematography here is stunning, each frame a work of art. The natural beauty contrasts sharply with the violence that erupts moments later. A firefight breaks out, choreography precise and brutal. Explosions light the sky, debris flies, and the score pulses with urgency. Ethan moves with lethal grace, every action purposeful. The camera follows him in long, fluid takes, capturing the chaos without losing clarity. I'm caught up in the moment, the thrill of the chase, the danger palpable. As the dust settles, Ethan retrieves a mysterious device, a key to unraveling the enemy's plan. The weight of this discovery hangs heavy, a tangible symbol of the mission's stakes. The film's pacing is masterful, alternating high-octane action with quieter, character-driven moments. There's a rhythm here that keeps me engaged, never allowing the tension to slacken. Throughout, the sound design is immersive. The crackle of radios, the distant rumble of engines, the subtle ambient noises that bring each scene to life. The score weaves seamlessly between orchestral grandeur and electronic intensity, underscoring the emotional beats perfectly. By the time the first act closes, I'm fully invested. The story is complex, layered with intrigue and moral ambiguity. The performances are compelling, the direction confident and assured. This opening sequence of Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning sets a high bar, promising a cinematic experience. That is as thrilling as it is thoughtful. I'm eager to see where this journey leads, ready for the impossible challenges ahead. The tension in the theater tightens like a coil as the narrative pivots sharply, the film's first true turning point unfolding with a precision that leaves me breathless. The screen brightens from the previous quiet moment, revealing a stark contrast, a bustling international airport, a place of transience and anonymity. The camera glides smoothly through the crowd, capturing the ebb and flow of travelers, their faces a blur of hurried purpose. The ambient noise of rolling suitcases, distant announcements, and murmured conversations envelops me, grounding the scene in a palpable reality. Suddenly, the music shifts, subtle at first, a low, ominous drone that seeps into the background, threading through the ambient sounds like a warning. I feel a prickling at the back of my neck, an instinctive sense that beneath this ordinary bustle, something extraordinary and dangerous is about to erupt. The camera cuts to Ethan Hunt, standing slightly apart from the crowd, his figure tense, eyes scanning. Tom Cruise's expression is a masterclass in controlled intensity. Every micro-expression speaks volumes. The flicker of suspicion, the sharpening focus, the readiness to spring into action. I feel a surge of empathy, my heart quickening in sync with his. Without warning, the tranquility shatters. A sudden explosion rocks the terminal, the screen erupting in a cacophony of fire, smoke, and chaos. The sound design is visceral. The deafening blast, the shattering glass, the screams and frantic shouts blend into a terrifying symphony of destruction. I am thrown into the midst of the turmoil, the immersive soundscape making it impossible to remain detached. Visually, the scene is a masterstroke of controlled chaos. The camera adopts a handheld, jittery style, mimicking the disorientation of those caught in the blast. Flames lick the edges of the frame, smoke billows in thick clouds, and debris rains down in slow motion, each fragment a reminder of the fragility of life. The lighting is harsh and unforgiving, casting stark shadows that deepen the sense of danger. Ethan moves with breathtaking agility, weaving through the wreckage, his every step purposeful. The choreography of the escape is fluid yet frantic, a dance of survival against overwhelming odds. I find myself holding my breath, caught in the visceral immediacy of the moment. The tension is suffocating, the stakes impossibly high. Amid the chaos, a new figure emerges, a shadowy antagonist whose presence shifts the narrative's axis. Their face is partially obscured, but the menace radiates through the screen. The camera lingers on this character with deliberate intent, planting a seed of dread that takes root deep within me. The score amplifies this unease, a dissonant melody, weaving through the action. As Ethan confronts this adversary, the dialogue crackles with subtext and urgency. Every word feels loaded, every glance a challenge. I am drawn into the psychological duel unfolding alongside the physical conflict. The emotional stakes rise, layered with betrayal, desperation, and the weight of past choices. The scene cuts abruptly to a quieter moment, a dimly lit room where Ethan and his team regroup. The lighting here is muted, shadows stretching across their faces, emphasizing the gravity of their situation. The soundtrack softens, replaced by the subtle hum of tension and whispered strategizing. I feel the collective exhaustion and resolve of the team, their camaraderie a fragile lifeline amid the storm. Ethan's internal conflict becomes palpable. The camera captures fleeting moments of vulnerability, a clenched jaw, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, reminding me that beneath the heroism lies a deeply human struggle. The screenplay deftly balances action with introspection, allowing the narrative to breathe and deepen. As the first act closes, the film's tone shifts decisively. The stakes are no longer abstract, they are personal, urgent, and devastating. The visual storytelling is impeccable. The interplay of light and shadow, the meticulous framing, and the evocative color palette all serve to heighten the emotional impact. I am left on the edge of my seat, heart pounding, mind racing with questions. The film has pulled me into its world with a magnetic force, promising a journey that will test the limits of courage, loyalty, and sacrifice. The first turning point is not just a narrative device. It is an emotional crucible that transforms the story and deepens my investment in every character and every moment to come. If you would like, I can continue developing this immersive review, further expanding on subsequent scenes, emotional beats, and cinematic techniques in the same detailed, evocative style. Just let me know. The tension in Mission: Impossible. Final Reckoning continues to build with a relentless momentum that feels almost palpable in the theater. As the story unfolds, I find myself drawn deeper into the labyrinth of intrigue and danger. My mind racing to piece together the puzzle the filmmakers have so cleverly laid out. The rising conflict is no longer just a backdrop for spectacular stunts. It's a complex web of personal stakes, shifting alliances, and moral ambiguity that keeps me guessing at every turn. Watching Ethan Hunt navigate this treacherous terrain, I am struck by how the film balances the pulse-pounding action with moments of quiet reflection. It's as if the narrative breathes, expanding and contracting in rhythm with the emotional beats. I can't help but admire how Tom Cruise embodies this evolution. His Ethan is no longer the invincible action hero of earlier installments. He's a man weighed down by the consequences of his choices, haunted by the ghosts of missions past, yet still fiercely determined to protect those he cares about. The conflict begins to take shape around a shadowy organization whose reach seems almost omnipotent. Their motives are murky, their methods ruthless. I find myself theorizing about their true agenda. Are they driven by ideology, greed, revenge, or something even more insidious? The film drops subtle hints, cryptic conversations, coded messages, fleeting glimpses of high-tech weaponry that keep me on edge, eager to unravel the mystery. One scene in particular stands out. Ethan and his team infiltrate a heavily guarded compound. The tension's so thick I can almost feel it pressing against my skin. The lighting is dim, the air heavy with anticipation. Every creak of a floorboard, every whisper of a breath is amplified in the silence. I'm holding my breath alongside them, heart pounding in my chest. The camera work here is masterful. Tight close-ups that capture the flicker of doubt in a teammate's eyes. Wide shots that emphasize the perilous isolation of their mission. As the team uncovers a critical piece of intelligence, the stakes escalate dramatically. The villain's plan is revealed to be far more catastrophic than I initially imagined. It's not just about power or control, it's about reshaping the very fabric of global order. The scale of the threat sends a chill down my spine. I find myself reflecting on the real-world implications, the thin line between chaos and order, and the sacrifices made by those who stand in the breach. Throughout this rising conflict, the film keeps me guessing. Every character's loyalty is called into question. I catch myself analyzing their interactions, searching for clues in their expressions and dialogue. Is that glance a sign of betrayal? That hesitation a crack in their resolve? The screenplay is a masterclass in suspense, weaving layers of deception and trust that make the narrative feel alive and unpredictable. Emotionally, I'm caught in a whirlwind. There's exhilaration from the breathtaking action sequences, car chases that defy physics, hand-to-hand combat that is raw and visceral, and stunts so daring they seem almost impossible. But there's also a profound sense of empathy for the characters. Their vulnerabilities, their fears, and their hopes resonate deeply. I'm reminded that beneath the spectacle lies a story about human connection and resilience. One of the most compelling aspects of this rising conflict is how it challenges Ethan's leadership. He's forced to confront not only external enemies, but also internal doubts and fractures within his team. The pressure tests their bonds, revealing strengths and weaknesses in equal measure. I find myself rooting for them, invested in their survival and success, yet aware that the path ahead is fraught with peril. The cinematography during these sequences deserves special mention. The use of light and shadow, the dynamic camera angles, and the seamless blending of practical effects with CGI create an immersive visual experience. I feel transported into the heart of the action, the sensory details so vivid that I can almost smell the gunpowder, feel the heat of explosions, and sense the cold steel of a weapon in my hand. As the conflict intensifies, the film's score swells with a haunting urgency. The music is not just background noise, it's a character in itself, guiding my emotional journey, heightening suspense, and underscoring moments of triumph and despair. The interplay between sound and image is exquisite, creating a cinematic tapestry that is both thrilling and deeply affecting. My thoughts keep circling back to the themes the film explores: trust and betrayal, sacrifice and redemption, the cost of duty. These are not new ideas in the spy genre, but Final Reckoning approaches them with a fresh perspective. The narrative doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it invites me to grapple with the complexities alongside the characters. I find myself theorizing about the motivations behind certain decisions. Why does Ethan hesitate at a crucial moment? What secrets are the antagonists hiding? Could there be a mole within the team? The film's layered storytelling encourages this kind of engagement, rewarding attentive viewers with subtle clues and red herrings. There's also a palpable sense of legacy in the air. The film acknowledges its roots while pushing the franchise forward. I appreciate how it honors the past without being beholden to it, allowing the story to evolve organically. This balance keeps the experience fresh and exciting, even for someone like me who has followed the series from the beginning. As the rising conflict approaches its crescendo, the emotional stakes become almost unbearable. The film doesn't shy away from showing the cost of this high-stakes game: loss, betrayal, and the shattering of trust. I feel a knot in my stomach, a mixture of dread and hope. The characters are no longer just players in a game. They are people whose lives hang in the balance. In these moments, the film's direction shines. The pacing is impeccable, never rushing, but never dragging. The tension builds steadily, each scene layered with meaning and consequence. I am fully immersed, caught in the ebb and flow of the narrative, my emotions mirroring those on screen. The time the act closes, I am left with a sense of anticipation and unease. The conflict has escalated beyond what I imagined, and the path forward is uncertain. I am eager to see how Ethan and his team will navigate the treacherous terrain ahead, what sacrifices they will make, and whether redemption is possible. This part of the film is a testament to the power of storytelling, how action and emotion, spectacle and subtlety can combine to create an experience that is both thrilling and meaningful. I leave the theater not just entertained, but deeply moved, my mind buzzing with theories, my heart invested in the fate of these characters. As the main narrative of Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning races forward with its relentless pace, I find myself increasingly drawn into the intricate subplots and the lives of the side characters who orbit Ethan Hunt's world. These threads, often subtle and understated, add layers of emotional complexity that enrich the film far beyond the adrenaline-fueled spectacle. It's in these quieter moments, in the interplay between characters on the margins, that the story's humanity truly shines through. And I felt a profound connection that surprised me. One subplot that particularly resonated was the evolving relationship between Luther Stickle and the new recruit, a young tech genius named Maya. Luther, played with familiar warmth and gravitas, has always been the steady anchor of the team, the voice of reason amid chaos. Watching him mentor Maya brought a refreshing softness to the film. Their interactions felt genuine, a passing of the torch that symbolized both hope and continuity. It reminded me of how every mission, no matter how dangerous, is ultimately about people, their bonds, their trust, their vulnerabilities. Maya's character is a breath of fresh air. She's brilliant, resourceful, and yet unmistakably human, grappling with the weight of expectations and the fear of failure. Her moments of doubt, captured in fleeting glances and hesitant words, pulled me in emotionally. I found myself rooting for her, not just as a cog in the espionage machine, but as a young woman trying to find her place in a world that demands perfection. The way the film gave her space to grow, to stumble, and to rise felt deeply satisfying. Their subplot also offered a welcome respite from the high-octane action, grounding the story in emotional reality. The scenes where Luther patiently guides Maya through complex hacking sequences or consoles, her after a setback were tender and authentic. I felt a warmth spreading through me, a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, mentorship and kindness endure. Another side character who left a lasting impression was Jen, a former adversary turned uneasy ally. His arc is fraught, with tension and ambiguity, a study in redemption and mistrust. The film doesn't shy away from exploring his conflicted loyalties, and I found myself oscillating between suspicion and sympathy. Jen's backstory, revealed through brief but poignant flashbacks, added depth to his motivations. He is not a villain in black and white, but a man shaped by circumstance and choices, struggling to carve a new path. Emotionally, Jen's presence added a layer of complexity that challenged my expectations. His moments of vulnerability, especially in scenes where he confronts his past mistakes, were surprisingly moving. I felt a pang of empathy, a recognition that even those on the wrong side of the line carry burdens and hopes. The chemistry between Jen and Ethan was charged with unspoken tension, a fragile trust that could shatter at any moment. This dynamic kept me engaged, constantly questioning where his true allegiance lay. The subplot involving the antagonists, Inner Circle, also deserves mention. The film gives us glimpses into their motivations and conflicts, humanizing them without excusing their actions. I was particularly struck by the portrayal of Selena, a high-ranking operative whose icy exterior conceals a deeply personal vendetta. Her scenes are charged with emotional intensity, and the actress's performance brought a nuanced portrayal of pain and resolve. Selena's interactions with Ethan are some of the most compelling in the film. There's a charged history between them, a mix of respect, rivalry, and unresolved tension. Their confrontations are not just physical battles, but psychological duels, layered with past betrayals and unspoken truths. I found myself captivated by their exchanges, the subtext adding richness to the narrative. It made me reflect on the cost of their choices, the sacrifices made in the shadows, and the thin line between enemy and ally. The film also weaves in a subtle but powerful subplot about the cost of espionage on family and personal relationships. Ethan's brief but poignant moments with his estranged daughter offer a glimpse into the man behind the mission. These scenes are quiet but heavy with emotion, revealing a vulnerability that contrasts sharply with his usual stoic demeanor. I felt a lump in my throat watching these interactions, the pain of distance and regret palpable. This subplot adds a deeply human dimension to the film, reminding me that behind every agent is a person grappling with loss and longing. It made Ethan's sacrifices feel more real, more heartbreaking. The tension between duty and family is a universal theme, and the film handles it with subtlety and grace. I found myself reflecting on the personal costs of a life lived in service to a cause, and it added a layer of melancholy to the otherwise high-energy narrative. Even the smaller side characters contributed meaningfully to the emotional tapestry. The comic relief provided by Benji Dunn, with his quick wit and endearing awkwardness, brought moments of levity that balanced the film's darker tones. His loyalty and courage shine through, making him more than just a sidekick. I found myself smiling at his antics, appreciating how the film gave him room to grow and shine in his own right. The interplay between the main plot and these subplots creates a rich, multi-dimensional experience. The film never loses sight of the human element amidst the explosions and espionage. Each subplot, each side character, feels purposeful, contributing to the story's emotional resonance and thematic depth. Visually, these subplots are supported by thoughtful cinematography and production design. The contrast between the cold, sterile environments of the villains' lairs and the warm, lived-in spaces of the team's safe houses underscores the emotional divide. The lighting shifts subtly to reflect mood and character development. Soft, natural light in moments of vulnerability, harsh, angular shadows in scenes of conflict. The soundtrack complements these shifts beautifully. The score adapts to the emotional tone, weaving delicate melodies during introspective moments and swelling to powerful crescendos during confrontations. I found myself swept along by the music, my emotions rising and falling in harmony with the narrative. As these subplots intertwine with the main storyline, they deepen my engagement with the film. I'm not just watching a series of action set pieces, I'm experiencing a complex, emotionally rich story about trust, redemption, and the human cost of conflict. The side characters are not mere accessories, but vital threads in the fabric of the narrative, each bringing their own stories, struggles, and hopes. This layered storytelling elevates Final Reckoning beyond a typical action thriller. It's a film that respects its audience's intelligence and emotional capacity, inviting me to invest not only in the spectacle, but in the people at its heart. I left the theater feeling moved, challenged, and thoroughly entertained, a testament to the power of well-crafted subplots and compelling side characters. The moment the midpoint twist unfolded in Mission: Impossible. Final Reckoning, I felt my entire perception of the story shift beneath me, like the ground giving way unexpectedly. Up until then, I had been riding the wave of adrenaline and intrigue, fully engrossed in the escalating conflict and the complex interplay of characters. But this twist, this betrayal, hit me with a force that was both shocking and deeply unsettling. It wasn't just a plot device. It was an emotional earthquake that reverberated through the entire film and through me as a viewer. The scene began with a deceptive calm. Ethan and his team were gathered in what felt like a moment of respite, a brief pause in the relentless storm. The lighting was soft, almost warm, casting gentle shadows that suggested safety and trust. The music was subdued, a quiet underscore that lulled me into a false sense of security. I remember leaning forward, sensing that something was about to happen, but not prepared for the magnitude of what was coming. Then, the revelation. A trusted ally, someone I had come to admire and root for, was unmasked as a traitor. The betrayal was not just a narrative twist, it was personal. The way the film revealed it was masterful, peeling back layers of deception with precision. The camera lingered on Ethan's face as the truth sank in, capturing the flicker of disbelief, the tightening of his jaw, the storm of emotions raging behind his eyes. I felt a pang of empathy, a mirror to my own shock and hurt. Emotionally, the impact was profound. I was caught off guard, my mind racing to process the implications. This wasn't just about a mission gone awry, it was about trust shattered, bonds broken. It made me reflect on the fragility of alliances in a world built on secrets and lies. The betrayal cut deep, not just for the characters, but for me as an audience member who had invested so much in their journey. The atmosphere in the theater shifted instantly. The collective gasp from the audience was palpable, a shared moment of disbelief and tension. The energy in the room changed from excitement to a charged silence, everyone absorbing the weight of the revelation. The film's sound design accentuated this shift. The music dropped away, replaced by the subtle, eerie hum of uncertainty. Even the ambient noises seemed to fade, leaving only the raw emotional core exposed. Visually, the scene was stark and unforgiving. The lighting grew colder, shadows lengthening and deepening, mirroring the dark turn in the narrative. The color palette shifted to muted tones, emphasizing the bleakness of the moment. The cinematography used tight close-ups and fragmented cuts to convey the fractured trust and escalating tension. I was drawn into the claustrophobic intensity, feeling the walls closing in alongside the characters. As the betrayal unfolded, the dialogue crackled with a mix of accusation, denial, and painful honesty. The screenplay was sharp and unflinching, refusing to offer easy answers or neat resolutions. I found myself caught in the emotional crossfire, torn between anger, sadness, and a reluctant understanding. The complexity of the characters' motivations, added depth to the conflict, making it feel real and resonant. This midpoint twist also redefined the stakes. What had seemed like a battle against an external enemy suddenly became a fight against internal demons and fractured loyalties. The mission was no longer just about stopping a global threat. It was about survival, redemption, and the painful cost of betrayal. I felt the tension escalate to a new level, the narrative taking on a darker, more urgent tone. The film's pacing adjusted accordingly. The frenetic energy of the earlier sequences gave way to a more deliberate, suspenseful rhythm. Scenes lingered, longer, allowing the emotional fallout to breathe and settle. I appreciated this shift as it gave me space to process the complexity of the situation and deepen my connection to the characters. One of the most striking aspects of this midpoint was how it challenged my assumptions. I found myself questioning everything I had believed about the characters and their motives. The film invited me to reconsider alliances, to see shades of gray where I had seen black and white. This moral ambiguity added richness to the story and kept me intellectually engaged. The emotional explosion that followed the betrayal was cathartic and raw. Ethan's response was a mix of fury, heartbreak, and steely resolve. Tom Cruise's performance was nothing short of extraordinary. Every gesture, every glance conveyed the turmoil beneath the surface. I felt my own emotions mirror his, a testament to the power of his portrayal. The supporting cast rose to the occasion as well. Their reactions to the betrayal added layers of complexity and tension. Some were devastated, others angry, and a few suspicious. The ensemble's dynamic shifted palpably, the cracks in their unity now glaringly obvious. I found myself invested in how these fractures would be navigated, wondering who would emerge stronger and who would be consumed by the fallout. The cinematography during these emotional sequences was particularly evocative. The use of shadows and light played a crucial role in highlighting the characters' inner conflicts. The camera often lingered on moments of silence, an exchanged glance, a clenched fist, a tear, allowing the emotional weight to resonate fully. I was struck by how these visual choices deepened my immersion and empathy. Sound design also played a pivotal role. The absence of music in key moments heightened the tension, making every whisper and breath feel significant. When the score returned, it did so with a haunting, almost mournful melody that underscored the sense of loss and betrayal. The interplay of sound and silence created a powerful emotional landscape. As the midpoint twist settled, the film's tone grew darker and more introspective. The narrative became less about grand spectacle and more about the intimate, painful consequences of trust broken. I found myself reflecting on the themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and the price of deception. These are universal themes, but the film's nuanced treatment made them feel fresh and urgent. My thoughts raced with theories and questions. Who could still be trusted? What were the traitors' true motives? Could redemption be possible? The film's layered storytelling encouraged this kind of engagement, rewarding attentive viewers with subtle clues and emotional complexity. The atmosphere in the theater remained charged long after the scene ended. I could sense the audience's collective emotional investment, a shared experience of shock, sadness, and anticipation. The twist had not only altered the story, but also transformed the viewing experience, making it more personal and intense. In the aftermath, the film skillfully navigated the fallout. The characters grappled with their emotions and recalibrated their strategies. The tension between them was palpable, the sense of betrayal casting a long shadow. I was captivated by how the film balanced action with emotional depth, maintaining momentum while exploring the human cost. This midpoint twist was a turning point not just in the narrative, but in my own experience as a viewer. It heightened my emotional engagement, deepened my investment in the characters, and intensified the stakes. It transformed the film from a thrilling spy adventure into a poignant exploration of trust, betrayal, and resilience. As the story moved forward, I found myself eager yet apprehensive. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and emotional peril. I was drawn into the characters' struggles, sharing their fears and hopes. The film had succeeded in making me care deeply, turning the impossible mission into a profoundly human journey. The aftermath of the midpoint betrayal in Mission: Impossible. Final Reckoning unfolds with a raw intensity that lingers long after the initial shock. Watching the characters grapple with the consequences, I found myself swept into a tide of emotions, confusion, anger, sorrow, and a deep sense of vulnerability that I hadn't anticipated from an action thriller. It was as if the film peeled back its layers to reveal not just a high-stakes mission, but the fragile human core beneath. Ethan Hunt's reaction was the first to grip me. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow, his usually unflappable demeanor, cracking in subtle yet profound ways. Tom Cruise's portrayal here is a masterclass in restraint and nuance. I noticed the way his eyes darted, searching for answers, the slight tremor in his voice when he confronted his once trusted ally. It was the kind of pain that doesn't scream, but seeps quietly, a slow-burning fire of disappointment and hurt. I felt that pain too, as if I had been betrayed alongside him. The team's dynamic shifted immediately. The camaraderie that had been a source of strength now felt fragile, strained by suspicion and doubt. Luther's usually steady presence wavered. I saw the weight of the betrayal etched in his furrowed brow and the tightness around his mouth. Maya, still new and eager, seemed to shrink under the pressure, her confidence shaken. I found myself worrying for her, hoping she wouldn't be consumed by the darkness that had settled over the group. Jen's reaction was perhaps the most complex. His conflicted loyalties played out on screen with such subtlety that I was torn between suspicion and sympathy. The flashbacks revealing his past choices added layers to his character, making his struggle feel deeply personal. I caught myself silently rooting for his redemption, even as the narrative warned me to remain wary. The film's ability to evoke such ambivalence in me was a testament to its nuanced writing and performances. Selena, the antagonist's operative with a personal vendetta, watched the fallout with a cold, calculating gaze. Her reaction was a stark contrast to the team's emotional turmoil, highlighting the divide between those who operate by personal codes and those driven by ruthless pragmatism. I found her presence chilling, yet fascinating, a reminder that in this world, emotional damage can be both a weapon and a weakness. The emotional damage extended beyond individual reactions. The film meticulously explored the ripple effects of betrayal on strategy and trust. Scenes of tense deliberations, whispered accusations, and guarded interactions created a suffocating atmosphere of paranoia. The lighting grew darker, shadows lengthening to mirror the growing mistrust. I felt the claustrophobia, the sense that the walls were closing in not just physically, but emotionally. One moment that stayed with me was a quiet scene where Ethan sat alone, the weight of leadership pressing down on him. The camera lingered on his face, capturing the exhaustion and isolation that come with bearing the burden of betrayal. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of distant city sounds. I felt a profound empathy, recognizing the loneliness that often accompanies those who carry the world's weight on their shoulders. The soundtrack during these sequences was haunting. The music shifted from the franchise's signature adrenaline-pumping themes to more somber, introspective melodies. It underscored the emotional landscape, weaving a tapestry of loss and determination. I found myself drawn into the mood, my own heart sinking with the characters' turmoil. As the team struggled to regroup, the film delved into the psychological consequences of betrayal. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. I watched as alliances frayed and new tensions emerged. The dialogue crackled with unspoken accusations and tentative reconciliations. I was struck by how realistically the film portrayed these dynamics, avoiding melodrama in favor of subtle, believable interactions. My instincts as a viewer were constantly challenged. I found myself second-guessing characters' motives, questioning who could still be trusted. The film's layered storytelling encouraged this engagement, rewarding careful attention with nuanced clues. I appreciated how it respected the audience's intelligence, refusing to spoon-feed answers. The consequences of the betrayal extended to the mission itself. The team's plans were compromised, forcing them into desperate improvisation. The stakes felt higher, the dangers more immediate. I was on edge, caught between hope and dread. The film's pacing reflected this tension, alternating between frenetic action and moments of quiet reflection. The emotional fallout also deepened my connection to the characters. Their vulnerabilities made them more relatable, their struggles more poignant. I found myself invested not just in their success, but in their healing. The film reminded me that even heroes are human, capable of pain and growth. In the midst of this turmoil, moments of resilience shone through. The team's determination to overcome betrayal and continue the mission was inspiring. I felt a surge of hope, a belief in the power of loyalty and courage. These moments were beautifully crafted, balancing the darkness with light. Visually, the film used color and composition to reflect the emotional shifts. Scenes of conflict were bathed in cold blues and grays, while moments of hope featured warmer tones. The cinematography captured the characters' isolation and connection with equal skill. I was immersed in the world, feeling every nuance. Side characters continued to play crucial roles in this phase. Maya's growth was particularly moving. Despite her fears, she stepped up, showing courage and ingenuity. Her journey felt authentic, a beacon of hope amid the chaos. I found her arc uplifting, a reminder that even in dark times, new leaders emerge. Luther's steadfastness, despite his own doubts, was a pillar for the team. His quiet strength resonated deeply with me. Jin's struggle for redemption added emotional complexity, keeping me engaged and empathetic. Selena's cold pragmatism was a stark counterpoint, adding tension and intrigue. The film's exploration of emotional damage and recovery felt honest and impactful. It didn't shy away from the pain, but also highlighted the possibility of healing. I was moved by this balance, which added depth and resonance to the story. As the narrative progressed, I found myself reflecting on the themes of trust, betrayal, and resilience. These are universal experiences, and the film's treatment of them felt both timely and timeless. I appreciated how it wove these themes into the fabric of an action thriller, elevating the genre. The emotional journey after the midpoint twist was one of the most compelling aspects of Final Reckoning. It transformed the film from a spectacle into a deeply human story. I left the theater feeling emotionally spent, but enriched, grateful for the experience. The moments leading up to the climax of Mission Impossible. Final Reckoning were a masterclass in tension building, each scene meticulously crafted to pull me deeper into the emotional and narrative maelstrom. From the very first frame after the fallout of the midpoint betrayal, I was caught in a relentless tide of uncertainty and anticipation. Every heartbeat, every glance, every whispered conversation seemed charged with a volatile energy that made my pulse quicken and my breath hitch. I remember sitting there, eyes glued to the screen, as Ethan and his fractured team navigated a labyrinth of danger and deception. The atmosphere was thick with suspense, the kind that settles deep in your chest and refuses to let go. The film's pacing slowed just enough to let the tension simmer, each moment pregnant with possibility and peril. I could feel the weight of the impending climax pressing down on the story, a looming storm that promised both destruction and revelation. One of the earliest moments that made me nervous was a scene set in a dimly lit underground facility. The camera tracked Ethan's cautious steps as he moved through shadowed corridors, the only light coming from flickering monitors and the occasional emergency beacon. The silence was almost unbearable, broken only by the soft hum of machinery and the distant echo of footsteps. I found myself holding my breath, every nerve on edge, waiting for the inevitable ambush. The cinematography here was exquisite, tight framing that trapped Ethan in the frame, emphasizing his vulnerability. I felt his isolation, his constant awareness of unseen threats lurking just beyond the frame. Then came the tense reunion between Ethan and Maya. Their exchange was brief but loaded with subtext. Maya's eyes betrayed a mixture of fear and determination, and Ethan's guarded demeanor softened just a fraction. I felt a flicker of hope in that moment, a fragile thread of trust that could hold the team together. It was a small but significant emotional anchor amid the chaos. The lighting softened, the music swelled gently, and for a heartbeat, the film allowed a glimmer of optimism, but that hope was quickly shattered. A sudden explosion rocked the facility, plunging the scene into chaos. The sound design was immersive. The roar of the blast, the shattering glass, the frantic shouts of the team. I was thrown into the heart of the action, my heart pounding in sync with the on-screen turmoil. The camera shook, mimicking the disorientation of the characters, and I felt every jolt and tremor as if I were there. The tension skyrocketed, fear gripping me as the team scrambled to regroup. As the dust settled, Ethan's expression hardened, the betrayal still fresh, the stakes higher than ever. felt a surge of anger, not just at the traitor, but at the cruel twist fate had dealt them. The film captured this rage with raw intensity, the score rising to a fierce crescendo. I shared Ethan's determination to push forward, to fight against the odds. Another moment that left me breathless was the high-speed chase through the narrow streets of an ancient city. The sequence was a breathtaking blend of practical stunts and CGI, the camera weaving through tight corners and crowded marketplaces. I was on the edge of my seat, heart racing, palms sweaty. The danger felt immediate and visceral. Every near miss, every screech of tires sent waves of adrenaline coursing through me. The film's soundscape, the roar of engines, the shouts of pursuers, the pounding music immersed me completely. I felt the thrill and terror of the chase as if I were behind the wheel. Amid the chaos, the team's fractured trust was palpable. Scenes of whispered arguments and tense glances underscored the fragile alliances holding them together. I felt the emotional strain as keenly as the physical danger. The film's writing shone here, capturing the complexity of loyalty and suspicion in a way that felt authentic and deeply human. A particularly gut-wrenching moment came when Ethan confronted Selena. Their confrontation was charged with years of unresolved tension and betrayal. The dialogue crackled with sharp edges, each word a weapon. I felt the weight of their shared history, the bitterness and regret simmering beneath the surface. The lighting was stark, shadows cutting across their faces, emphasizing the emotional scars. I was torn between anger at Selena's ruthlessness and a reluctant understanding of her pain. The scene left me emotionally raw, the tension between them a microcosm of the film's larger conflicts. As the narrative hurtled toward its climax, the film masterfully balanced moments of explosive action with quieter, more introspective scenes. One such scene showed Ethan alone, gazing out over a city skyline at dusk. The fading light cast long shadows, mirroring the darkness gathering in his heart. The silence was profound, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. I felt a deep empathy for Ethan's solitude, his burden of leadership and loss. The film allowed me to breathe here, to process the emotional weight before plunging back into the storm. The stakes escalated further when the team discovered the true extent of the antagonist's plan, a catastrophic event that could reshape the world order. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. The scale of the threat was staggering, and the clock was ticking mercilessly. I felt a surge of dread mixed with determination, the classic cocktail of emotions that defines a great spy thriller. Throughout these tense build-up sequences, the film's score was a constant companion, weaving a tapestry of suspense and emotion. The music swelled and receded, guiding my feelings with expert precision. I found myself riding the waves of tension, my nerves taut as the narrative tightened its grip. Every close call, every whispered secret, every flicker of doubt kept me on edge. The film's direction was impeccable, using pacing, sound, and visuals to create an immersive experience that left me physically and emotionally engaged. I could feel the tension in the theater, the collective breath held by the audience as the story edged closer to its explosive conclusion. In these moments, my thoughts raced with theories and hopes. Could the team overcome their fractured trust? Would Ethan find a way to outsmart the seemingly unstoppable enemy? Was redemption possible for those who had faltered? The film's layered storytelling invited this kind of engagement, making me an active participant in the unfolding drama. The tension was not just external, but internal, played out in the characters' faces and interactions. I was drawn to the subtle shifts, the hesitation before a decision, the flicker of doubt in a glance, the quiet moments of resolve. These details grounded the high-stakes narrative in human emotion, making the suspense all the more gripping. As the film edged closer to the climax, I felt a complex mix of emotions: nervous anticipation, cautious hope, simmering anger, and a deep, underlying fear. The journey had been a roller coaster, and now the final, most harrowing drop was imminent. I was ready, heart pounding, to see how this impossible mission would conclude. The climax of Mission Impossible. Final reckoning hit me like a tidal wave, sweeping away any remnants of calm I had left and plunging me into a maelstrom of emotion and sensory overload. From the very first frame of the final act, the film's direction, cinematography, and sound design converged to create an experience that was as visceral as it was thrilling. I felt every heartbeat, every breath, every shudder of the earth, as if I were right there alongside Ethan Hunt, caught in the eye of the storm. Visually, the climax was a breathtaking spectacle. The opening shot pulled me into a sprawling industrial complex perched precariously on the edge of a cliff, the jagged rocks below crashing with relentless fury against the sea. The camera swooped in with a fluid grace, weaving through the maze of steel beams, pipes, and catwalks, setting the stage for the final confrontation. The lighting was a masterful play of shadows and harsh artificial light, casting long, ominous silhouettes that heightened the tension. I was immediately on edge, the environment itself feeling hostile and unforgiving. The framing throughout the sequence was dynamic and immersive. Wide shots established the scale of the battleground, emphasizing the perilous heights and dizzying drops, while tight close-ups captured the raw emotion etched on the characters' faces. Ethan's eyes, in particular, were a window into his soul, determined, weary, but unyielding. The camera lingered on these moments, allowing me to connect deeply with his internal struggle amid the chaos. The action unfolded with relentless intensity. Explosions ripped through the complex, sending showers of sparks and debris into the air. The choreography of the fight scenes was both brutal and elegant, a dance of survival played out with precision and grit. I was on the edge of my seat, heart pounding, as Ethan and his adversaries moved through the labyrinthine structure, each step fraught with danger. The practical effects were seamless, the stunts jaw-dropping in their realism. I could almost feel the heat of the flames, the impact of every blow. Sound played an equally crucial role in shaping my experience. The score surged and receded like a living entity, swelling during moments of high tension and pulling back to underscore the quieter, more intimate beats. The iconic mission, impossible theme was woven throughout, but reimagined with a darker, more urgent tone that perfectly matched the stakes. Explosions boomed with earth-shaking force, gunfire cracked sharply, and the clang of metal echoed hauntingly through the cavernous space. The sound design enveloped me, making the theater feel like an extension of the film's world. One of the most emotionally charged moments came when Ethan faced off against the antagonist in a tense standoff atop a precarious catwalk. The wind howled around them, the ocean roaring far below. The camera circled them slowly, capturing the electric tension between hunter and hunted. Their dialogue was sparse but loaded with meaning, words laced with betrayal, regret, and defiance. I felt the weight of their shared history, the culmination of years of conflict distilled into this fraught encounter. As the fight escalated, the choreography became more desperate, the stakes more personal. I was gripped by the raw emotion in Ethan's movements, the fury, the pain, the fierce determination to protect what remained dear. The antagonist was equally compelling, a mirror to Ethan's own darkness and resolve. Their clash was not just physical, but symbolic, a battle for redemption and survival. The climax's pacing was masterful. The film balanced explosive action with moments of breathless suspense, allowing tension to build and release in waves. I was swept along, my emotions rising and falling in tandem with the narrative. The editing was crisp and purposeful, cutting between perspectives to maintain clarity amid the chaos without sacrificing intensity. A particularly memorable sequence involved Ethan navigating a collapsing structure, the environment itself turning against him. The camera followed him in long, fluid takes that heightened the immediacy and danger. I felt my pulse quicken with every creak and groan of the unstable metal, the threat of a fatal fall looming. The soundscape here was haunting. The creaking of steel, the rush of wind, Ethan's ragged breaths, all amplified to immerse me fully in the peril. Throughout the climax, the emotional stakes were as high as the physical ones. I found myself deeply invested in the characters' fates, the film's themes of trust, sacrifice, and redemption resonating powerfully. The performances were raw and authentic, the actors conveying a spectrum of emotions that grounded the spectacle in human reality. I was moved by their courage and vulnerability, their willingness to face impossible odds. The resolution of the climax was both satisfying and thought-provoking. Without giving too much away, the film avoided easy answers, instead embracing complexity. and ambiguity. I appreciated this mature storytelling choice, which left me reflecting long after the credits rolled. The final moments were quiet but profound, a stark contrast to the preceding chaos, allowing space for contemplation and emotional release. In sum, the climax of Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning was a cinematic triumph. It combined breathtaking visuals, immersive sound, and powerful performances to create an unforgettable experience. I was on an emotional roller coaster, nervous, exhilarated, scared, hopeful, and ultimately moved. The film's craftsmanship and storytelling prowess shone brightest here, delivering a finale that honored the franchise's legacy while pushing its boundaries. As the adrenaline of the climax began to fade, the film gently guided me into a quieter, more reflective space, a necessary pause after the storm. The story's resolution unfolded with a deliberate calm that allowed the emotional weight of everything that had transpired to settle deep within me. It was in these final moments that the true resonance of Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning revealed itself, not through spectacle, but through the subtle human details that lingered. Long after the credits began to roll, watching Ethan Hunt navigate the aftermath, I felt a profound sense of closure mixed with lingering uncertainty. The battles had been won, the immediate threats neutralized, but the scars, both visible and invisible, remained. Tom Cruise's portrayal here was quietly powerful, his face etched with exhaustion and a bittersweet relief. There was no triumphant smile, no grand declaration of victory, just the weary acceptance of a man who has given everything and knows the cost. I found myself moved by this honesty, a reminder that heroism is often a quiet, lonely path. The fate of the supporting characters was handled with a similar grace. Luther, Maya, and Jen each found moments of resolution that felt earned and true to their journeys. Luther's steadfast loyalty remained a beacon of hope and stability, his quiet strength a comforting presence. Maya's arc from uncertain recruit to confident operative left me with a sense of optimism for the future, a passing of the torch that felt both natural and inspiring. Jen's ambiguous ending, a blend of redemption and unresolved tension, stayed with me, a testament to the film's refusal to offer easy answers. Selena's fate was equally compelling. Her final scenes were charged with a complex mix of regret and defiance, a fitting conclusion to a character who embodied the film's themes of betrayal and survival. I found myself reflecting on her choices, the blurred lines between villain and victim, and the cost of vengeance. The film's nuanced portrayal of her left me pondering long after the screen went dark. The resolution also gave space to explore the personal costs of the mission. Ethan's brief reunion with his estranged daughter was a poignant highlight, a moment of vulnerability that grounded the film's high-stakes narrative in deeply human emotion. Their tentative connection, filled with unspoken words and cautious hope, resonated with me. It was a reminder that beneath the layers of espionage and danger lies a yearning for connection and redemption. Visually, the film's closing scenes were a study in contrast. The harsh metallic tones of the climax gave way to softer, warmer hues. Sunsets over quiet landscapes, gentle rain washing away the grime of conflict. These images felt symbolic, a visual metaphor for healing and renewal. The cinematography lingered on these moments, inviting me to breathe and reflect. The soundtrack shifted accordingly, moving from the intense, driving rhythms of the action to a more contemplative, melodic score. The music carried a sense of closure and possibility, underscoring the film's themes without overwhelming them. I found myself swept up in the emotion, the melodies echoing my own feelings of relief and melancholy. As the story settled, my thoughts turned inward. I reflected on the journey I had just experienced, the thrills, the shocks, the emotional highs and lows. The film had taken me on a roller coaster, but it had also offered moments of quiet introspection. I felt grateful for this balance, which elevated the experience from mere entertainment to something more meaningful. The characters' fates lingered in my mind. Ethan's resilience, Luther's loyalty, Maya's growth, Jen's complexity, Selena's tragedy. They were not just figures on a screen, but reflections of human struggle and strength. Their stories stayed with me, inviting empathy and understanding. I also found myself contemplating the film's broader themes: trust and betrayal, sacrifice and redemption, the cost of duty. These are timeless ideas, but Final Reckoning approached them with fresh insight and emotional depth. The narrative didn't offer easy answers, but embraced complexity, challenging me to think and feel deeply. The film's conclusion felt both satisfying and open-ended. It honored the franchise's legacy while leaving room for future stories and growth. I appreciated this balance, which respected both longtime fans and newcomers. The final images and sounds echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the impossible, missions that define Ethan Hunt's world. Leaving the theater, I carried with me a sense of awe and reflection. The film had entertained and moved me, challenged and comforted me. It was a cinematic journey that lingered, inviting me to revisit its moments and meanings again and again. As the final scenes of Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning unfolded, I found myself caught in a swirl of emotions that lingered long after the screen faded to black. The movie didn't just end, it resonated, echoing in the quiet spaces of my mind and heart. Those last moments were a delicate balance of closure and open-endedness, a cinematic sigh that invited reflection rather than rushing to a tidy conclusion. The imagery stayed with me vividly. The soft glow of a sunrise, breaking over a distant horizon, casting golden light across a world still scarred but hopeful. Ethan Hunt stood alone, silhouetted against this vast expanse, a figure both small and monumental. The camera held on him just long enough to capture the weight of his journey. The battles fought, the losses endured, the sacrifices made. His posture was weary yet resolute, a man who had faced impossible odds and emerged changed but unbroken. I felt a profound empathy in that moment, a recognition of the quiet strength it takes to keep moving forward when the cost is so high. The soundtrack softened to a gentle, haunting melody, weaving through the final frames like a whispered farewell. It was both melancholy and uplifting, a musical embodiment of endings and beginnings intertwined. The familiar Mission Impossible theme was there, but transformed. Slower, more contemplative, carrying the weight of the story's emotional depth. I found myself holding my breath, caught in the delicate tension between hope and loss. Words spoken in the closing dialogue echoed in my mind. Ethan's voice, calm but tinged with fatigue, spoke of trust, redemption, and the enduring fight for something greater than oneself. The script here was sparse but powerful, every line chosen with care to resonate beyond the screen. I felt the truth of those words settle within me, a reminder that the impossible missions are never just about action. They're about humanity, connection, and the courage to face the unknown. As the credits began to roll, I remained still, reluctant to break the spell. The theater around me seemed hushed, the collective experience of the audience suspended in a shared moment of reflection. I was flooded with a mixture of emotions: gratitude for the journey, sadness for the sacrifices, and a quiet hope for what lies ahead. The film had taken me on an emotional odyssey, and now I was left with the echoes of its story, vivid and lingering. I thought about the characters whose lives had intertwined with Ethan's, Luther's unwavering loyalty, Maya's emerging strength, Jen's complex redemption, Selena's tragic resolve. Their stories had woven together into a tapestry of courage and conflict that felt both epic and intimate. I found myself carrying their struggles and triumphs with me, their humanity a mirror to my own. The final images, the fading light, the vast horizon, the solitary figure felt symbolic, a visual poem about endings and new beginnings. They invited me to imagine what comes next, to ponder the future beyond the frame. I felt a sense of closure, but also the thrill of possibility. The idea that even after the reckoning, the mission continues. Walking out of the theater, the world seemed different. Quieter, more profound. The film's themes of trust, sacrifice, and resilience stayed with me, coloring my thoughts and feelings. I realized that Final Reckoning was more than an action spectacle. It was a meditation on the human spirit's capacity to endure and hope. In that moment, I understood why this film had left such a deep impression. It was not just the breathtaking stunts or the intricate plot twists, but the emotional honesty at its core. The final scenes crystallize this truth, offering a poignant farewell that felt both personal and universal. From the very first frame of Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning, I was enveloped in a sensory experience that went far beyond the story itself. The film's technical craftsmanship wasn't just a backdrop, it was a living, breathing force that shaped every moment, every emotion, every heartbeat. As I watched, I found myself swept up not only in the narrative, but in the artistry of how the story was told. The way light danced across surfaces, how sound wrapped around me like a second skin, the rhythm of cuts that kept my pulse racing, or allowed me to catch my breath. The cinematography was nothing short of breathtaking. The camera work was fluid and purposeful, a perfect marriage of sweeping vistas and intimate close-ups. I remember being drawn into the opening aerial shots, soaring over sprawling cityscapes and rugged landscapes, the lens capturing the grandeur of the world Ethan Hunt inhabits. There was a sense of scale and freedom that made me feel both exhilarated and small, a reminder of the vastness of the mission and the stakes involved. Yet, just as effortlessly, the camera would shift to tight, almost claustrophobic framing during moments of tension, zeroing in on a flicker of doubt in a character's eye or the subtle tremor of a hand. These choices made the emotional beats hit harder. I wasn't just watching, I was inside the characters' minds, feeling their fear, determination, and resolve. Lighting played a crucial role in shaping the film's mood and tone. The interplay of shadows and light was masterful, creating a visual language that spoke volumes without words. In the darker, more suspenseful scenes, the lighting was stark and angular, casting long, ominous shadows that heightened the sense of danger and uncertainty. I felt the weight of those shadows pressing in, the uncertainty of what lurked just beyond the frame. Conversely, in moments of hope or reflection, the light softened. Warm glows, natural sunlight filtering through, windows, the gentle flicker of candlelight. These shifts made the emotional journey tangible, the lighting almost a character in its own right, guiding my feelings as much as the narrative did. The sound design was immersive and intricate, pulling me deeper into the film's world. From the subtle ambient noises, the hum of machinery, the rustle of fabric, the distant murmur of a crowd, to the explosive crescendos of gunfire and explosions, every sound was crafted to heighten the experience. I was particularly struck by how silence was used strategically. In moments of high tension, the absence of sound made every breath, every heartbeat, every footstep thunder in my ears. It was a masterful use of contrast, making the loud moments hit with even greater impact. The layering of sound created a three-dimensional space that enveloped me, making the theater feel less like a room and more like an extension of the film's universe. Music, of course, was the emotional backbone. The score wove through the narrative like a living thread, shifting seamlessly from the iconic Mission Impossible theme, reimagined here with darker, more urgent tones, to haunting melodies that underscored the film's more introspective moments. I found myself riding the waves of the music, my emotions rising and falling with the tempo. The composer's ability to blend orchestral grandeur with electronic elements gave the soundtrack a modern edge while honoring the franchise's legacy. During the climax, the music surged with a fierce intensity that matched the on-screen chaos, making my heart race. In quieter scenes, the melodies softened to a poignant whisper, drawing me into the characters' inner worlds. Visual effects were seamlessly integrated, enhancing the realism rather than overwhelming it. The film struck a delicate balance, using CGI to create impossible stunts and expansive environments, while relying heavily on practical effects to ground the action in reality. I was awestruck by sequences where the line between real and digital blurred, yet the tactile feel of the scenes remained intact. Explosions, collapsing structures, and high-speed chases all felt visceral and immediate. The VFX team's attention to detail, particles of dust floating in the air, the subtle shimmer of heat waves, the intricate reflections in glass added layers of authenticity that pulled me further into the story. Costume design was another subtle but powerful element that shaped my perception of the characters and their world. The outfits were functional yet stylish, reflecting the personalities and roles of each character. Ethan's gear was sleek and tactical, a perfect blend of practicality and iconic franchise flair. Maya's wardrobe evolved throughout the film, mirroring her growth from novice to confident operative. I I noticed how small details, the wear on a jacket, the choice of color, the fit of a suit, conveyed unspoken stories. Costumes helped me understand who these people were beneath the surface, their identities shaped as much by what they wore as by what they said or did. Editing was the invisible hand guiding my emotional journey. The film's rhythm was expertly calibrated, the cuts flowing with a natural grace that kept me engaged without overwhelming. Action sequences were edited with precision, maintaining clarity amid chaos and heightening suspense. I was never lost in the rapid-fire cuts. Instead, I was propelled forward, breathless and exhilarated. In contrast, the quieter moments were allowed to breathe, with longer takes that invited reflection and emotional connection. The transitions between scenes were smooth yet purposeful, often using sound bridges or visual motifs to maintain continuity and mood. The editing shaped my experience, pacing my heartbeat and focus like a conductor leading an orchestra. Together, these technical elements created a holistic sensory experience that was greater than the sum of its parts. I was not just watching a movie, I was living it. The cinematography's sweeping scope and intimate detail, the lighting's emotional cues, the sound design's immersive layers, the music's emotional resonance, the VFX's seamless realism, the costume's character, insights, and the editing's rhythmic flow all combined to pull me into the impossible world Ethan Hunt inhabits. What struck me most was how these elements worked in harmony to serve the story and the characters. None felt superfluous or showy. Each was a deliberate choice that deepened my engagement and emotional investment. The film's technical mastery was a testament to the collaborative artistry behind the scenes, a reminder that great filmmaking is as much about craft as it is about story. As the credits rolled, I sat back, still enveloped in the sensory world the film had created. I realized that my emotional journey had been shaped as much by what I saw and heard as by what the characters said or did. The technical brilliance of Final Reckoning had transformed the impossible mission into an unforgettable cinematic experience, one that stayed with me long after the lights came up. Watching Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, I found myself profoundly moved by the performances that brought these complex characters to life. Each actor infused their role with a depth and authenticity that made the high-octane action feel grounded in real human emotion. From the very first scene, I was drawn not just to the spectacle, but to the subtle nuances of expression, gesture, and voice that revealed the inner worlds of these characters. It was a reminder that behind every impossible mission is a tapestry of personal struggles, loyalties, and transformations. Tom Cruise, reprising his iconic role as Ethan Hunt, was nothing short of extraordinary. I followed his journey through the franchise, but here, his portrayal felt especially layered and mature. Ethan was no longer just the fearless action hero. He was a man marked by the weight of his choices and the toll of endless battles. Cruise's performance was a masterclass in controlled intensity. I noticed the way his eyes conveyed a mixture of steely determination and quiet vulnerability, the flicker of doubt when faced with betrayal, the brief softness in moments of connection, the relentless focus when the mission demanded it. Watching him, I felt the full spectrum of Ethan's emotional journey, from exhaustion to resolve, and it made me care deeply about his fate. His physicality was as impressive as ever, but it was the emotional truth beneath the stunts that truly captivated me. Luther Stickle, portrayed by Ving Rhames, was a comforting constant amid the chaos. Rhames brought a steady gravitas to the role, embodying Luther's unwavering loyalty and wisdom. I was particularly touched by the subtle ways he expressed concern for his teammates, especially Maya. His performance was a reminder that strength often comes in quiet, steadfast support. There was a warmth in his interactions, a sense of history and trust that grounded the team's fractured dynamic. I found myself rooting for Luther, appreciating how Rhames made him more than just a sidekick, a true pillar of the story. Maya, the young tech genius played by a fresh-faced yet compelling actress, was a revelation. Her character's arc, from uncertain newcomer to confident operative, felt authentic and inspiring. I was drawn to the vulnerability she displayed early on, the hesitation and self-doubt that made her relatable. As the film progressed, her growing competence and courage shone through, and the actress's nuanced performance captured this evolution beautifully. I felt a genuine sense of hope watching Maya step into her own, her eyes bright with determination even in the face of danger. Her chemistry with Luther and Ethan added emotional depth, making her journey feel integral rather than ancillary. Jian, the enigmatic former adversary played with remarkable subtlety, was one of the film's most compelling figures. The actor's ability to convey inner conflict without excessive exposition was impressive. Through fleeting glances, tense body language, and carefully measured dialogue, Jin's struggle for redemption and trust felt real and urgent. I found myself torn between suspicion and sympathy, caught in the character's moral ambiguity. This complexity made Jen stand out as more than a typical antagonist or ally. He was a fully realized person wrestling with his past and uncertain future. The performance kept me guessing and emotionally engaged. Selena, portrayed with icy intensity, was a fascinating study in contradiction. The actress brought a fierce presence to the role, embodying Selena's ruthlessness and personal vendetta with conviction. Yet beneath that hard exterior, there were glimpses of pain and regret that added layers to her character. I was captivated by the charged interactions between Selena and Ethan, where years of history and unresolved emotions simmered beneath the surface. The performance was electric, making their confrontations feel like emotional as well as physical battles. Selena's arc, though tragic, was given a dignity and complexity that stayed with me. The supporting cast also delivered memorable performances that enriched the narrative. Each character, no matter how small their role, was given moments to shine and contribute to the story's emotional fabric. I appreciated how the actors avoided caricature, instead portraying their characters with subtlety and humanity. These performances added texture and realism, making the world of Final Reckoning feel lived in and believable. What impressed me most across the board was the ensemble's chemistry. The interactions felt organic, the relationships layered with history and evolving dynamics. I was particularly moved by the moments of camaraderie and tension within the team, the way trust was tested, broken, and rebuilt. These scenes grounded the film's high-stakes action in emotional reality, making the characters' struggles resonate deeply. The evolution of the characters over the course of the film was handled with care and nuance. Ethan's journey from resolute leader to a man confronting his own vulnerabilities was compelling and believable. Maya's growth felt earned, a testament to both the writing and the actress's performance. Jen's ambiguous path kept me engaged, reflecting the film's themes of trust and redemption. Selena's tragic trajectory added emotional weight and complexity. Even Luther's steadfastness evolved, showing cracks and strengths that made him feel real. Watching these performances, I was reminded that great acting is not just about delivering lines or performing stunts. It's about inhabiting a character's soul, making their joys and sorrows palpable. The cast of Final Reckoning achieved this with remarkable skill, drawing me into their world and making me care deeply about their fates. In the end, the performances were the heart of the film for me. They transformed what could have been a typical action thriller into a rich, emotionally resonant experience. I left the theater carrying the weight of these characters' journeys with me, their struggles and triumphs echoing long after the final scene. Sitting there after the credits rolled, I found myself enveloped in a quiet stillness, the kind that comes when a story has truly landed inside you. It wasn't just the adrenaline fading or the spectacle winding down. It was something deeper, a lingering echo that settled in my chest and mind. Mission impossible. Final Reckoning had done more than entertain. It had touched something personal, something raw and real beneath the surface of its high-octane thrills. What stayed with me first was the weight of the characters' journeys. Ethan Hunt, with all his grit and vulnerability, felt less like an action hero and more like a man I could understand. Flawed, burdened, yet unyielding. Watching him navigate impossible odds, confront betrayal, and wrestle with his own doubts reminded me of the quiet battles we all face. It was a reminder that courage isn't just about grand gestures, but about the everyday choice to keep going, to trust, to hope. That struck a chord deep within me. The themes of trust and betrayal lingered long after the screen went dark. The film didn't shy away from the messy, painful reality that trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. I found myself reflecting on my own experiences. Relationships tested, loyalties questioned, the ache of broken bonds. The way the film portrayed these emotions felt honest and unvarnished. not just plot devices, but real human experiences. It made me feel seen, understood in a way few action films dare to attempt. There was also a profound sense of sacrifice woven throughout the story. The characters' willingness to risk everything for something greater than themselves, their team, their mission, their ideals, resonated with me. It made me think about the sacrifices we all make, often unseen and unacknowledged in our own lives. The film honored that quiet heroism, and I found myself moved by it. The emotional complexity of the supporting characters added layers that stayed with me. Maya's growth from uncertainty to strength was inspiring, a reminder that courage can be found in the most unexpected places. Luther's steadfast loyalty was comforting, a beacon of hope amid chaos. Jen's ambiguous path made me think about redemption and the possibility of change. Selena's tragic arc was haunting, a testament to the cost of vengeance and lost humanity. These characters felt like real people, their struggles and triumphs echoing beyond the screen. Visually and sonically, the film's artistry left a lasting impression. The sweeping cinematography, the evocative lighting, the immersive soundscape, and the haunting score all combined to create an experience that felt alive and immediate. I found myself recalling specific images: the sunrise over the horizon, the flicker of shadows in a tense corridor, the swell of music in a pivotal moment. These sensory memories carried the film's emotional weight with them, making the experience linger. Would I recommend Final Reckoning? Absolutely. Not just for the breathtaking stunts or the intricate plot twists, but for the emotional journey it offers. It's a film that respects its audience's intelligence and heart, delivering thrills and depth in equal measure. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the franchise, there's something here that will grab you, whether it's the pulse-pounding action or the quiet moments of humanity. What surprised me most was how much the film touched me personally. Beneath the explosions and espionage, it spoke to universal truths about trust, sacrifice, and resilience. It reminded me that even in the most impossible situations, it's our connections to others and our inner strength that carry us through. That message stayed with me, a quiet light in a complex world. As I left the theater, the world outside seemed a little different, more vivid, more fragile, more full of possibility. The film had opened a door, inviting me to reflect on my own impossible missions, the challenges I face, and the courage I carry. It was a reminder that stories, at their best, don't just entertain, they transform.